Welcome back to the Barnyard Gang tutorial. In this video, we are going to be working on our pig character, which means we're going to need some pink yarn. I happen to be using, I love this yarn in Sport Weight, and I am using a size F 3.75 hook. I'm going to need some fiber fill fluff, and you're going to need some stitch markers just so that you can keep track of where the beginnings of your rows are. You're going to need just a little bit of maybe some black for his eyes. Otherwise, the piggy is primarily pink. What I did to get things so that it's not quite such a long video this time is I went ahead and made his body right away. If you've already picked up the pattern, it is the horse body is going to be the pig body. You're just going to make the horse body in pink. All right. So since I already have Piggy's body already made up, I am going to go ahead and start right away on Piggy's head. So Piggy's head, and we're going to be working the last animal in the next video. The last animal is going to be chicken, and chicken and Piggy's head are really close in the same size. So the only difference is going to be chicken is going to be one row increase bigger, but let's not worry about chicken right now. We're focusing on Piggy. So I went ahead and I made a magic ring and I chained one, and now I'm going to put 6 single crochets into the magic ring. And 6. We're going to go ahead and pull that. And once again, we're working in the round, so we're not joining our rows. We're simply going to start working into the first single crochet of that round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my stitch. I always count backwards just because sometimes I pull these too tight and my first stitch gets buried. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to be working that loose end in as well. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets in each of the single crochets going around. So we're going to end up with a total of 12 stitches on round 2. This is 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, and 11 and 12. All right, we're going to do another increase round, which means that we're going to single crochet into one, and then we're going to increase in the next by putting 2 single crochets in there. What I'm going to do at this point, though, is I'm going to put a stitch marker into the first single crochet of that round so that I have a visual reminder of where the beginning of my row is, and I don't necessarily have to count. You are going to want to count once you get to the end of your round. Just make sure you have 18 stitches on your project. Almost done. And we've got 16, 17, and 18. All right, we're ready to move on to round 4, and in this row we're going to be increasing one more time. We're putting 2 single crochets in between our increases. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to be doing these in multiples of 4. And remember, we are increasing 6 times around, so that'll give us a total of 24 stitches at the end of this round. And this is going to be the last increase for Piggy's head. After this, we're going to do a couple of rows of just plain old single crochet so that we can give it some body. And then we're going to stuff it. All right. And there we are at the end of that round. Okay, so rounds 5 and 6, we're just going to be doing single crochets in the round, and I will see you back here when you're done with round 6. Alrighty, and with 2 rows on, 5 and 6, we're going to start decreasing now to create shape. So we're going to single into 2, and then we're going to do our invisible decrease. So in the front loops only, pull up the next 2 loops, pull through, and then pull through. Single into 2, invisible decrease through the front loops of the next 2, pull through and pull through. Single into 2, and then just keep doing that all the way around. Our next round is going to be singling into 1 and then doing our invisible decrease. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and do that round, and I will be back. Okay, I've gone ahead and I've completed through round 8 of the piggy head, which leaves us with 12 stitches. So at this time, I'm going to use the opening that I have left, and I'm going to go ahead and stuff the head. You can use your end to tap it down. Let's get Piggy's head fairly firm, because the next round that we're going to do is going to decrease 6 times, and we're not going to be able to stuff anything in there after that. So you're going to kind of need to get in there what you want to get in there, and then work your next round of decreases just carefully. And since this round is actually going up against Piggy's body, you don't necessarily have to do the invisible decreases. I'm just going to do regular decreases because they're less time consuming and not quite as much work when you're dealing with fluff trying to come out the back end of your stuff. So there's number 3 and number 4, number 5, and number 6. And then I'm just going to slip stitch here. Going to leave a nice end to sew on with, and just set this aside. Now, I kind of flatten out this end a little bit so that when I'm matching the head up against Piggy's body, it kind of, makes a chubby piggy. Because pigs don't have real big necks either. So you can choose, since Piggy has just has a curly tail on the end, I'm going to try and leave his pretty end open, and I'm going to cover up the end where I stopped, because the body will the head will pretty much cover up the ugly end as I'm going around. So I just have to make sure of where my attachment, and then make sure you have it positioned where you want it, and stick some straight pins in there to hold it in place. And just remember that this end in here is much smaller, so don't squish it down too hard and end up going through the second to last row as you're attaching. All right, so that's how I want to have Piggy's head on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a nose coming off the front of Piggy's head here, and then we'll put 4 little legs on the bottom and some ears on here, and then a little squiggly tail. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get him attached. I'll be right back. All right, I have his head attached to his body. We are going to now start working on his ears. And his ears are made out of chicken beaks. So if you have the pattern with you, make 2 chicken beaks. Otherwise, it goes a little something like this. So we are going to chain 2. We're going to 2 single crochet into the second chain from the hook. 1 and 2. We're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to do 2 single crochets into each of those first 2 single crochets. So you should have a total of 4. 3 and 4. And then we're going to turn, or chain 1 and turn, and we're just going to single crochet into those 4 single crochets. Now we are going to leave a nice long end for sewing on. And then when we attach them to the body, we're going to actually fold them in half a little bit like so that the ear peeks out a little bit, or you can even do the dirty end, or not the dirty end, but the end with the yarn on it, and you know, turn it up. You can put these ears on however you like. My suggestion is though to tuck this little end in here before you do it. So we're going to go ahead and make that one more time. Chain 2 and put 2 single crochets into the second chain from the hook. 1 and 2, chain 1, 2 single crochets. If you can keep your hook on your yarn. So let's do that again. 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. All right, and then chain 1, single into each. And go ahead and cut it off. Now, I don't know if you've ever been around pigs or not, but pigs have fairly, you know, perky faces, and their ears tend to be at the tops of their head. So make sure that you've got your body facing so that the top of the head is showing. And you're going to want to place the ears closer to the top, not way down here on the sides like the cow, but, you know, somewhere between the very center and the side. That's where piggies have their ears. All right, so I'm going to let you put your ears on however you'd like. I am going to, I'll show you how I'm going to do mine, just in case you aren't sure of how you want to do yours yet. I'm going to tuck this yarn in here because I don't want it to be flopping around or become a problem or come undone. And then I've got an earless pig. Cut that off. All right. And I'm going to, let's see, how do I want to do this? I think I'll go this way, where I'm going to meet the ends that would have had yarn hanging out of them. I'm just going to kind of pull that snugger so that it looks more like an ear, I guess. And then I'm going to take the ear. I'm going to find where I want to have it attached. And then I'm going to whip stitch it to his little head. The one thing I do want to try and maintain, and maybe this might be a little fiddly for you, is that attachment that I did across the bottom to kind of fold the ear up a little bit. There we go. I don't want to flatten the ear out as I am attaching it. I want there to be a slight curve. We've got a slight curve. Not a lot of a curve, but just enough. All right, so I like to go to the back side and work some stitches through the back as well. Just to secure everybody down so nobody gets any ideas about falling off. All right. Okay, so there's one of my ears. I'm going to do the same thing with the other side of Piggy, and I will be right back. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to work on nose and legs. All right, both my ears are on, and I was just thinking about it. If you happen to know any of those real chunker piggies that happen to have the ears that are super long and they go down over the eyes of the piggy. All you need to do is just keep working row 3 of the ears until you get it to the length that you want it to be. And then these will flop down over, and you can do that kind of a piggy ear as opposed to the ones that stand up if you prefer. All right, so I'm gonna get my pattern so that we can start working on the nose and the feet. All right, we're ready to start on the nose, and this is another one where it's just 3 rows, very simple. And I'm just going to start with a magic ring, chain 1, and put 6 single crochets into that ring. Now row 2 is going to be working in the back loops only of these stitches. So we are going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's that one. Okay, so instead of working through both loops of this stitch, we're just going to grab the back loop. And we're going to do 1. I'm not going to worry about that string right now. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's going to turn our nose immediately so that it's working in a cylinder. And round 3, we're just going to be working in both loops. And I am going to catch this string up into that just to secure it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, if you don't like the length of this piggy nose, if you don't like the snout length, you can leave off row 3. This is about what the length of the piggy nose is going to look like. I'm going to go ahead with the piggy nose that I have. And I'm going to cut off that little strip. And pull this through. All right. So like I said, you're going to need to shape piggy nose a little bit. But that's about what it's going to look like off the front of my pig. If you want piggy to have a shorter snout, like I said, just stop after row 2, and that'll give you a nice short snout. I'm going to have a little bit longer snout on mine. If you want piggy to have nostrils, now is the time to throw some in there. Take a little bit of black thread and put some at the point. Otherwise, just go ahead and you can either sew them on now or wait until after you've got your legs and stuff done and you're ready to do the rest of him. But his legs are going to be very, very similar. According to the instructions, the legs are going to be this plus 1 more row. So it's basically the same width, etc., as the snout, only you're going to have 4 rows instead of 3. Although if you want to just stop after 3, you can definitely do that. It's going to have some really short, cute little legs. But just make 4 more of the nose and add a row. So they're going to have 4 rows, not 3. All right, I'm going to get those done and I'll be back. Okay, I've got Piggy all together. I've got his feet on and I've got his nose in place. And I am ready to put on his tail. And then I'm going to put some eyes on him and I'm going to be done. So let's go ahead and do his tail together. I'm going to slip stitch, not slip stitch, but make a slip knot and then chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we are going to make a corkscrew tail. So in the second chain from the hook, we're going to put 3 single crochets, and we are going to put 3 single crochets in all of the remaining chains till the end. We want this to get curly on us, and the way to get a curly Q is to continually put more stitches into the chain than there should actually be to keep it nice and straight. I learned how to do this when I was in the 8th grade. I think I was the 8th grade. Maybe I was a freshman. I don't know. But it was in like 1985, maybe 84. But I remember I learned how to do a double crochet corkscrew, and all of us girls were making bookmarkers and stuff like that. Put 3 into the last one as well. 2 and 3, and I'm just going to chain 1 and cut, leaving a nice long end. But yeah, so little corkscrews have been around for a nice long time. Nothing new here. Let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna weave that end in real quick to keep him from sticking out. Trim that off, and then I'm going to sew his tail to his butt. Make sure you get it kind of centered on the back side, and then just do a couple stitches to hold it in place. You can do it so that the tail comes up, or you can, I'm going to actually go down a couple of stitches so that it's firmly, there we go. I like that tail a little bit better, not quite so floppy. All right, and with that, I'm just going to weave in my end. Go ahead and cut that off. And now I'm just going to put some eyes on Piggy, and I'm going to call it good. So like I do with all my other animals, and I'm going to be putting faces on, I like to, at the end of my yarn, make a nice big fat knot, like so. And then I will come up from behind and go through the fiber fill, because this big fat knot catches on the fiber fill that way. And piggies have their eyes kind of more centered and not so off to the side. Their noses are kind of centered between their eyes, so just going to do some little eyes here. And then I'm going to poke in and go straight across to where his second eye is going to be. And then I am going to insert and exit towards the underneath again. So I've got the eyes that I want in place. Boy, I put that ear on crooked, didn't I? All right, so we've got a wonky piggy, but I'm okay with that. And then I'm going to do the same kind of big fat knot on the underside here, pushing it as close to the skin as possible of the piggy, because I don't want to have a really long end to have to pull in here. And then just weave your way over. My hook does not want to come through. All right, so I am grabbing this and pulling it back in and tucking it into the fiber fill in the head. That's poking out, so I'm just going to get some fiber fill and cover it up. There we go. And you can't see where the eyes went in, and they'll be secure because nobody's going to be able to find the end. Like I said, I've got a little bit of a wonky piggy here, but I'm okay with him. And I think he looks pretty darn good. All right, I hope you had fun making piggy on this tutorial. And we're going to do chicken. That's going to be the last animal of this set. And I'll see you in the next video.